Well, it's now time for the Prep Spotlight presented by Capital Sports Fieldhouse. And got another great high school coach to chat with here tonight. Ovid-Elsie head coach Josh Latz, now in his 12th season. Got a big game coming up tomorrow. We're recording this on Monday night, but a big Tuesday game against number 2 Langsburg. So first of all, Josh, you're having a great season this year yourself at 11-1, taking on unbeaten Langsburg. You've put up a heck of a lot of wins in your 12-year career. How's this looking forward to that game tomorrow night? How's that one stacking up for you? Are you getting the jitters and all that stuff that you would naturally expect?
Oh yeah, the jitters come. Doesn't matter who the opponent is, but definitely for this one coming up, Langsburg is outstanding. They have an outstanding program, outstanding coaches, and it's been that way for 30 years since Coach Mitchell took over. And we're looking forward to seeing where we kind of stack up against them. We know they're very good, and we have them in our district. So tomorrow, hopefully, is one of those measuring stick games. We're a little bit kind of on the short end here because we weren't able to practice yesterday with the weather, and then we had a snow day today, and they wouldn't let us come into practice today. So we're kind of rolling a little bit blind, just watching film and kind of going with a little bit of a walkthrough tomorrow. So we don't really know what to expect because of that. We just know they're going to be very good, and we're going to have to play our best game to have a chance.
What are the mind games with a game like this where you said like you're going to be playing them in districts? Is your game plan like really dumbed down, or are you 100% like let's go win this game and send a message ahead of districts?
Yeah, it's a great question. We just hope to play our best in every game. I don't think the mentality will change. Maybe more for us coaches, not as showing as much, maybe, but
right.
not telling the kids. Obviously, we're trying to go out and show everybody that we can compete with a team of that caliber. But yeah, you're right. It is kind of a little bit of a chess match. Do you want to throw everything? Let's say the game's close at the end. Do you throw all your stuff to try to get the win, or do you kind of,
right.
So it's kind of a fine line. But like I said, because of the way the week's been with the weather and not being able to get in the gym the last 2 days, we're kind of, it's more of a play and see where we're at, more than anything. We got a guy out, one of our starters out hurt still, dealing with a concussion, and they've got a guy out or has been out. So I don't think it's, 100% versus 100% anyways.
Yeah.
So it's really just go out and see where we're at and try to use it as a stick to know where we got to get to in the next month.
Yeah, that's something you don't think about sometimes with high school sports when it comes to snow days. I mean, you can't go into the gym if there's a snow day. You can't go to practice or whatever for if you're out for a few days. That kind of affects your rhythm, I guess. It's just something you don't think about sometimes. So you played at Ovid-Elsie in the early 2000s, back in, I guess, my era. You graduated a year before me, and we were kind of talking before we started recording. At the time anyway, we were playing really well, and maybe Ovid-Elsie, we kind of had your guys' number there for a little bit. You've been at OE now for 12 years, and you've turned that program around. You guys are having a lot of success. Same thing happening with your guys' football program. What has it taken overall for Ovid-Elsie athletics to kind of turn things around? Is it you guys just have a bunch of good talent? You've got the community buying in, good coaching like yourself. What is it taking to kind of turn your guys' programs around?
I think it's a combination of all those things. When we took over, the basketball program had won 20 games in the last 4 years when I took over, 12 years ago. And really when we took over, there wasn't a lot established with our youth. And we really focused on training our coaches and, at the youth level, and then getting some more interest with our young kids, and kind of trying to find as many opportunities as we could to make them compete. And we got into the Red Cedar League kind of when I took over there. And actually the first classes that we got in that were the classes that started to come through and have the win the district championships, and we start to win some league championships. So, I think it's been a combination of all that, and the community's really bought into with that, and the fact that we just have so much support from our parents and, from other community members with helping out with that, with our young kids, coming to games and supporting us, having things, youth nights and things like that in the gym, just trying to make it exciting for them. And winning, when you can build a winning culture, it's just fighting for it every day and making sure our kids understand the standard. You guys know that you played for Coach Fattel, and it's no different. It's not me. It's not me as a coach. It is totally the success of the kids and the younger coaches putting in that time and building them. So when they get up to the high school level, it's just a continuation of that culture. And luckily, we've had some really dedicated parents and really dedicated kids to get us to that point. And like I said, now it's just something you fight for every day. But once it's built, it's kind of the kids understand the standard and they understand what it takes to succeed. They see what it takes to succeed because they see the guys in the high school having success and what it takes to win. And it's just kind of that cyclical thing that just continues. We hope to continue it for a long time, as long as we can, at least.
Well, you bring up a good point, and we've talked about it before with different schools in our area. We watch from afar, for them to turn around a program. You laid it out perfectly, getting with the youngsters at a young age, getting coaches trying to teach them what you want them to teach them, especially fundamentals, how to behave. So when they get to the varsity level, you don't have to redo that. Now, you may have shortchanged yourself because it's very important what you do with the kids. And every time I do a game over at Ovid-Elsie, I always started off with, I'm at the house that Forback built. Bob Forback kind of laid down the groundwork way back when, and there's been some other good coaches that have come through the program. Tell us a little bit about maybe some of the mentors that you learned a lot from.
Yeah, and Coach Forback's number one for me. I was in his wife's class back in first grade. She was a great teacher, and my love for basketball kind of began at that time. And I was fortunate enough to be one of his managers as a 4th, 5th, 6th grader, somewhere in there. And we had some teams that didn't win a lot of games, but it was the 2 teams that won back-to-back district championships. So they didn't, and it was a kind of a fluke thing. Both of them were fluke things. They were 4-16 and were able to win the districts. So that fire and that love of the game kind of started at that time. I would run the clock and put the hoops down, and shoot around while practice was going on, and just being around all those guys and wanting to be like them, and then on down the line, Coach Nutter, Jack Nutter, was my coach in high school. Great guy, one of the most stand-up guys you'll ever meet. So he had a big impact on me. My uncle, Dirk Besko, was a great player at Ovid-Elsie back in the late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
He was on the team that went undefeated. It was like 23-0 and then lost in the regional finals to Okemos. And he was a coach over in St. John's for over 20 years. So, there's another guy I kind of lean on a lot and did a lot early in my career with how to handle certain situations. I worked a lot of his camps when I was in college. So I got to learn, through him and Keith Haskey over in St. John's. He's had a lot of impact on me as well. Doug Ingles in St. Ignace, I've talked to him quite a bit. He's had numerous all-state kids, missed basketball, won state championships with the girls team. So I've been lucky enough to have a lot of those guys around me. And now as I get older, it's kind of funny, as I'm starting to be one of the elder statesmen kind of per se. I got these young coaches coming to me. It's like, man, I guess I am getting old because, but it's just, it's a fraternity, and I'm lucky to have guys like that. I admire everything Coach Fattel did over in Corunna, Coach Mitchell in Langsburg. I mean, some of those guys that have been around just that have done great things. Luke Pohl, the late Jason George, I talked to him quite a bit when he was in Fowler and in Portland. And, we're lucky to have guys that will reach out to me and help me, and especially when things are tough, because times are tough quite a bit as a coach, whether you're winning or losing or dealing with parents or dealing with this or that. So it's great to have those guys to kind of lean back on.
Yeah, it's funny to hear you say that you're kind of a mentor now, because that's, at least when I was going through school 6 years ago, Ovid-Elsie, since you've been there 12 years, it's, you could pencil you guys in for 15 wins every year. And so I would think of you the same way as what you maybe thought of, Coach Mitchell, is what I look at Ovid-Elsie and your guys' program. But maybe your biggest win ever, you've won league titles, districts, obviously, was breaking the famous, at least in front of land, the famous, win streak of, whatever it was, 35 plus years it went on. One, was that something you always harped to your team before playing Corunna up until you beat the streak? And what was it like when you guys finally did snap it?
Well, truth be told, we only played them one time before that game when I was coaching.
Yeah.
So, all that talk that was going on that year, we were getting ready to play them. We had only played them once before. And actually in that game, we had a little bit better record. That was against Kyle's team with your brother on it. And so that was really the only other time where we had played Corunna. So we were getting ready to play them, and it's like all the hoopla was going on with this, the streak or whatever you want to call it. And it's like, wait a second, you guys, number one, weren't even alive and haven't been alive or around since any of this started. So you guys should have no understanding or no worry at all. All the pressure, if anything, it's on me. So don't worry about it. Just go out and play. And, we were lucky enough that year to have just some outstanding athletes and some great leadership really with a lot of those guys. And, Corunna, like I said, always just had a great program, still has a great program. So we felt fortunate to have him in our gym that night and, played pretty well and kind of got the monkey off the back, I guess, took the elephant out of the room. And then, but yeah, I mean, that for a long time, that was something that, especially you guys over in Corunna, you guys had on us for sure.
Oh, we knew it. I wasn't going to say it when I mentioned my question before. We knew that streak was going on. But I remember hearing when it broke, and I was like, oh, you don't want to be the class at Corunna that let that streak be broken. But it was going to happen eventually, of course.
Sure.
But, you've been mentioning Corunna, Lanesburg, yourselves, obviously, and some other local, kind of more in like Shiawassee County, mid-Michigan, kind of like that greater area, I guess. How cool is it, for you? You grew up there. You just listed all of these coaches, and even a player in my grade, Kyle Clough, who you've brought up a couple times. He's up at Rockford now. He's been on the podcast a couple times, doing well as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is it for you to see programs in the area doing well? A friend like Kyle and other mentors and stuff like that. Just the quality of basketball in mid-Michigan that sometimes, gets swept under the rug a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes me feel proud and gives me a lot of pride, because you're like you said, it is the West Side. Yeah, they've got good basketball. There's some good basketball down by Detroit, and there's good basketball in Northern Michigan, but there's a lot of really good basketball right here, and especially at the Division III now, level, Division II, III level. We don't have a bunch of big schools, and I think maybe that's why that we don't get the recognition in the area, because we just don't have the big cities and the schools that everybody talks about. But there's extremely good basketball and extremely good coaches, and if you don't come ready to play or you're not ready to play, they can beat anybody on any night. And like you said, back with Kyle, he's worked for everything he's got, and he works his tail off. Along with guys like Brent Jameson when he was down coaching in Indiana, and it's cool to see guys that you grew up with and competed against have that success.
Right in our area specifically. In fact, in your conference, you got Chesaning having a great season, Durand having a great season, obviously you guys. And since you're on as our guest, let's talk about your team a little bit. Tell us about some of the key players and the style you play this year, Josh.
Yeah, we kind of had to make going into the summer, we were a different team than we were now. We lost one of probably our best returner, stat-wise. He transferred down to Orchard Lake St. Mary's to focus on football. Yep. And so we kind of went through a little bit of a period where we had to kind of find ourselves, and everybody had to find the role, because we expected to have, this guy
right.
Averaging, anywhere from 15 to 18 and 10 rebounds a game. So we've had to have guys kind of figure out their role kind of through the way, the seasons went, and losing 6 practices to start the season because of the way MHSA kind of pushed the season back. I really felt hurt us, because we really do a lot of install during that time, especially defensively. So, once we've kind of found our way per se, we started to play better, and guys started to accept the roles. We've got a couple really, really good senior leaders in Clay Wittenberg and Logan Thompson. Both have been 3-year players for us. Both were all conference last year. Clay's really stepped his game up. He's averaging just over 18 a game and averaging about 8 rebounds, and just a great athlete. He's a great athlete on the football field. He's also a great golfer for us in our golf program. Logan does a great job as a guard for us. making shots and kind of being steady Eddie when we need him to. And our third senior leader, Braxton Stenger, is kind of the leader by example that doesn't get the credit all the time.
Yeah.
He's averaging like 6 assists. And he's averaging 5 or 6 points and 4 or 5 steals and 4 or 5 rebounds. So he's the guy that does it all for us. So we really do a lot of leaning on those three. And then some of our other guys have done a good job of stepping in when we need them to. Bo Price had a huge game in our win against Chesaning. Gunnar McCreary's been huge for us in different games. And, we've had some guys step up when we've needed them to in some of those marquee games. But like you said, Ted, it doesn't get any easier for us playing in the league with a couple road games against Chesaning and Durant coming up. Both those teams are outstanding and have outstanding players, and their coaching is very good. So, we're just grateful for any opportunity we get, and very grateful for every win we get. We never take winning for granted, and it's tough because the basketball is pretty good in the area. So
yeah. That's cool to see for sure. And I mean, you guys are just preparing each other for the postseason, right? That's what you're doing. I'll be curious to see how some of these districts shake out for sure.
Well, it's like we got moved down to D3 because of enrollment sizes. We're, down to about 400 kids now. And I look at the district that we've been in and it's like, holy smokes. We got the number 2 team in D3 in Langsburg in there, but I look at the one in Chesaning and it's like, okay, you got to deal with Chesaning. You got to deal with Hamady, who's extremely good again.
Right.
And then you got to deal with Corona, who's, extremely good. So I don't know if it's kind of half dozen one way, whatever, the other. It's so you hope to be playing your best basketball that time of the year anyways. So either way you slice it, it's going to be a challenge for us.
Look at Ted down there licking his chops because he's going to be calling some of those games on the radio. He can't wait for it.
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you something. So I mentioned
got my list.
Got your list right there. So you brought up Coach Fattel, who I played for, Jared's dad at Corona, 20 years ago now. I dug up one of our scouting reports. Look at this thing. Every game we would get something like this. Full box score, full write-up. This is Ovid-Elsie right here. Like I said, you graduated a year ahead of me, so this is my senior year.
What's it got to say about my brother?
Your brother, Jason Latz. It's the first one. I was going to ask you, how accurate is this write-up of your brother, Jason? Good shooter, can hit the 3 ball, has 10 at the time, has been in double figures every game this year, does not look to take the ball all the way to the basket when he penetrates. He likes to pull up for the jumper. He will pull up for the jumper in transition as well, chase him down and get a hand on it from behind. Is that fairly accurate?
Yeah, Coach Fattel knew his stuff, man. That's pretty accurate of him.
Yeah, I was going to say, so as a coach, I mean, as much as you could see me holding up in front of the camera, I mean, is that scouting reports in a binder? Is that still a thing nowadays? Do you still go in depth, or like what? Can you appreciate that kind of detail?
We get more bullet points. So, the bullet points of the guys that we need to worry about, the danger guys, and, a couple of the main things the other team's going to do. Early in my career, I was like that. I was very detailed with scouting reports. We go over other teams' actions over and over in practice. And, the older I've gotten, it's like just keeping it simple, more simple for them. Just two or three things that about each guy. I don't know if that's my philosophy that's changed over time or attention spans, sometimes go. But part of that, I think, then compared to now also is when you scouted or you watched, you prepared to play, you had to sit together with a VCR,
right,
and watch film, and now with everything online, it's just throw the film up on Huddle, you make your comments in and you can mark it up, right, and have it's all broken down for you and the guys can watch it. So I don't know if that's why, part of the prep work is not as detailed for us, right. And there's success every way. Some guys, some teams we play, we're going to roll the ball out, play zone, and they're going to run us, 1 or 2 sets. And other teams, you got to spend more time preparing for. Like we're going to play Langsburg tomorrow, and Langsburg is very much motion, type of offense. So we just kind of talk about some of the actions and what some of their best players are going to do, what we're going to see on defense, and go from there, I guess. But Shoot, man, he had that down. That is Jason for sure.
One last question for me, Coach. Like I said earlier, I mean, you can basically, set your clock to Ovid-Elsie winning 15 games or more under you. I mean, 12 years is a long time to be doing it. What keeps you doing it, and how long do you think you will keep coaching? Because, I mean, if you keep going, I mean, we talk about Clint Galvis all the time, all the wins he has. I mean, you keep going at this pace, you're still a young guy. I mean, who knows how many wins you can amass?
Shoot. I tell you what, man, I appreciate all the kind words, Jared. We've had really good players,
Right.
especially the last 6-7 years that have really worked hard. As far as how much longer I'm going to do it, I don't know. To be honest with you, it's like the 15 wins a year. That's more stressful than having to worry about trying to do that than it is just competing. So
Right.
I couldn't tell you. I guess the kids are why I still do it. It really is. I love the relationship with the kids. They're like sons to me, and then when they graduate, they're kind of like brothers to me.
Mhm.
And that's really why. The only reason I do it is for them. I've got a couple young ones coming up, a 6th grader and a 4th grader, and I kind of think about sometimes the sacrifices that I'm making in not being able to help their teams or help them coach.
Yeah.
They're coaches on their teams where, and I guess it goes right back to the kids. It's just these kids that, that I've taught and watched grow up through the program and continuing to do it for them. Yeah, that's really why I do it. And the only reason we do it. So as far as time, like I said, it's a year by year thing right now.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I'll let you go on this. I have one last question. You're a teacher over there. Are you in the middle school now, Josh?
Yeah,
I mean,
I teach 7th grade. Yep.
That's what I thought. Now that's got to be cool. You're teaching these youngsters in 7th grade level. You can tell when you see them in phys ed or when you see them out shooting hoops, who you're going to be eyeballing in the future. That's got to be really an advantage, I think, being in the school system, especially a great school system like Ovid-Elsie, being able to help mentor these younger kids and then getting a handle on what's going on in the hallways, because you hear all the stuff that's happening out there. You find that to be a big advantage being a teacher in the school system that you're a coach in?
100%. 100%. I don't think there's nothing like it because you have that connection, right from the start with these kids, especially like you said in 7th grade, because I can get them then.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of they start to understand and see, how what the things I'm going to allow, I guess, per se, and expectations of being a person rather than a basketball player. I mean, that's more about what it is anyways. And we talk to our guys about it all the time. The basketball is just a game. Win or lose, the sun's coming up tomorrow. And what kind of person are you going to be? And what kind of father are you going to be someday? What kind of husband are you going to be? What kind of brother are you? What kind of son are you and grandson? So, and I always say this, I teach 7th grade world history, which to a lot of kids doesn't mean anything. Right. And they're never going to use it. But I tell every kid that comes into my classroom that, we expect you to be a better person walking out of here at the end of the year, whether you learn anything about world history or not. We want you to learn characteristics that are going to make you a good person, to be able to be successful someday in society, forget the sports. Right. Just to be a good person. And I think maybe that and that mentality, I think, helps build that trust and that confidence in the kids, and that they know that we're there for them to do anything they need, and it doesn't matter what part of life it is. And I think then they take that and they work harder a little bit in the other parts of where you're involved with them, which, in my case is in basketball. So yeah, I mean, just building that relationship with those kids is there's nothing like it. You guys know, all three of you guys know, because you've all three played for tremendous coaches and had tremendous successes in life, that it's like, that means more to me than anything, getting a text from players that maybe you didn't see eye to eye with all the time about how much they appreciate you later in life. I mean, that means more to me than anything else. Any win, any championship, anything is building that with those guys and seeing those guys succeed at, now in life as dads and things like that. So
perfect way to end it right there, Josh. Well spoken. Really enjoyed this conversation with you. As we mentioned, Langsburg on the schedule tomorrow night, Tuesday night. Number 2 Langsburg Wolfpack, led by the Woodruff brothers. We'll be there on the castle. I'm looking forward to it. I know that gym is gonna be smoking, man. It's gonna be a fun atmosphere.
It's kind of it's a little disappointing because the girls are playing over there, and we have them at our place, so the crowds will be split.
Oh,
That's
what?
a bummer.
Oh,
But
wow.
I still think it should be a good crowd. We played Langsburg back when I was coming up through, but then we haven't played them in a while, and it's a shame we haven't because they're 10 miles away. So
Next door
Yeah,
neighbor.
it's pretty cool to be able to get back and play the neighbors like that, and hopefully we can come out and compete, especially like I said, after 2 days of no prep. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We've
give it
taken
our
up your
best.
time before we let you go. But I mean, do you think there could be a new rivalry forming now that you guys are in Division 3 with Lanesburg?
There very possibly could be. Absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely. I had this idea too, like Meridian Road kind of brings you through both. I think we need to have like a Meridian Road trophy, a traveling
There you
trophy or
go.
something. And
That'd
same
be cool.
thing in football. I think we should play them in football and have something like that. You
Yeah.
get great crowds and great gates, and everybody knows everybody from each
Yep.
community.
Yep.
So just some
That's right.
ideas.
Oh,
But
trust
that's
me.
not my- but I'm just a
3 Point
coach.
Podcast
Yeah.
Meridian Road Trophy.
Yeah.
We talk about
There
it
you
all the
go.
time, the neighboring schools playing each other and how much we used to love it back in the day. And we've
Yeah.
we've thrown around some ideas for trophies. So I
Yeah.
think you might be onto something.
Just a thought, but I don't make the big bucks to make that choice.
Well, we obviously don't either. You can tell. No, it was great catching up with you again, Josh. I'll see you tomorrow night. And again, best of luck the rest of the season and down the road. All right.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yep,
You got
thanks,
it.
Josh.
Capital Sports Fieldhouse is the home of hit and pitch and a whole lot more. The 10,000 square foot turf field can be used for all indoor sports training, including football, baseball, basketball, softball, soccer, and many other activities. Hit and Pitch has 7 indoor batting cages with full pitching tunnel and the state-of-the-art Hit Tracks training system utilized by MLB organizations. Located in the old Capitol Bowl J.C. Penney block on South Washington in Owasso, Michigan. For more details, call Capital Sports and Hit and Pitch at 989-472-4624 or online at capitalsportsfh.com.
All right, fellas, that's another great high school interview. And it's ironic that we had Daniel Morrow of Langsburg recently and now Josh Latz of Ovid-Elsie, and they're going at it. Before we go to our next topic, just the prep spotlight, some of the key games we just had. Ovid-Elsie's, he talked about it. Logan Thompson put up 25 in their win over Mount Morris. Langsburg stayed undefeated. They're number 2 in Division 3. They're 12-0 now. Xander Woodruff, we've talked about him before, 34 in their win over Saranac. So Tuesday night, January 30th, right on Z92.5 The Castle, you can catch Ovid-Elsie at Langsburg. Also, our alma mater, the Corunna Cavaliers, they had a big win over Owasso, 81-48. 10-2 now for the Cavs. Brevin Belor was unconscious, guys. 35, 9 triples, all of them from the corner. This kid is a deadly shooter. And I don't know if you caught any of the broadcast. Charlie Bell, actually, he'd been working with Charlie Bell, former Spartan, former NBA player, on 3-point shooting for him. Man, what a game.
He can shoot it. It's I love the hype around this Shiawassee County hoops season, man.
Yeah.
Lads talked about it a little bit. How awesome would it be if we maybe had a our holiday tournament like what they had this year at Corunna, the Shiawassee Shootout? Let's get Ovid-Elsie in that thing. Ovid-Elsie versus Corunna you should mark your calendar.
Every year.
That should be every year. That's a great matchup. 2 good programs. It's cool to see, man. And it was cool getting to talk to him, and we wish him the best of luck. It's going to be a great one tomorrow, Ted. I'm jealous of you being able to be there and see it in person.
That'll be a good one. It's a shame though, like you said, the girls. And the boys
I don't understand that. That's the first time I've ever heard of that. That's terrible.
Tuesday nights, that's what they've been doing. The girls play at the other school, and on Friday nights, the girls varsity plays first, so they're all together.
Yeah, that's interesting. That kind of splits the crowd up a little bit. So that's kind of a shame. It'll still be electric, like you said. I'm curious. He mentioned both his and then Corunna's districts. Those are a couple juggernaut districts. You guys are more plugged in than I am, obviously now, but just listing those teams, it's like those are going to be some good games right there.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Division Three is Bath, Byron, okay, but then Langsburg, New Lothrop, Ovid-Elsie, and Perry. I mean, that's a solid district right there at
Yeah.
the New Lothrop gym, and then the Chesaning one, as you mentioned, Flint Hamady, and then you got Flint Hamady's got to be the favorite. I'm sure they'll be
Yeah.
seeded number one, but then you got Corunna and Chesaning both having great years, and they got Mount Morris and Owasso maybe not so good, but still another solid district. Just
Yeah.
depends how the draw comes about.
I mean, Hamady, you could probably set your watch to them being at the Breslin Center, at the
Yeah.
end of the year. And I mean, Lanesburg, we talked about it. The coach wouldn't really, give us much on it. But, a potential undefeated season. I mean, it's going to be tested tomorrow night. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be a really fun one. And I really do think, if they're in Class C now, which it seems like Ovid-Elsie will be for the foreseeable future, them versus Lanesburg, and that's going to be a great district matchup every year.
Amen. And I should mention this too. Owasso girls beat Corunna for the first time in a decade, as freshman guard Danica Dwyer had 16 in their win over the Cavaliers. The real bummer in that game, though, for Corunna, their senior Sydney Gillette suffered her third ACL injury. She's done for the year for her career at Corunna. And man, that's the first time I think I've ever heard of an athlete at the high school level in our area, 3 ACL tears.
That's a lot. I heard one friend of the podcast, Craig, was on the call with you for that game, and I saw he posted the open, so they had her start, and then they subbed her out. That's a cool gesture. But she's the one we've been talking about. She committed to Michigan for rowing.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So I wonder how that's going to work out. Hopefully, she's going to be able to rehab and still get to do that.
Yeah, amen. I don't know, but that was very sad to see. But it was a classy move too, though.
Yeah.
Send her out there and start. Even in fact, Craig had told me, yeah, she's out with a torn ACL, and then all of a sudden we see her in uniform, and I guess I didn't get my facts straight enough before the game because they stopped it right away, and I figured it out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But again, good stuff here. By the way, Chesaning picked up a win over Montrose, and Friday night, this coming Friday, it'll be New Lothrop at Chesaning. My first chance to see both those teams live this season. So it's heating up, fellas. It is heating up here in the gyms on the radio. So it's going to be a good February heading into March. Looking forward to it.
It seems like, once that calendar, whether it's college basketball or high school, once it turns to February, it's like it really starts to heat up, like you said.